Hello, so it's Michael here, and today I thought I'd actually go over an issue that I've encountered myself when creating animations using the control rig that comes with the third-person template. Now, the third-person template itself is quite handy, as it just offers a way to be able to create some animations directly within the editor, so it's nice and easy. So this is actually a quick example of an animation that I've set up, and as you can see, there's nothing overly special about it. It just kind of leans back and lifts his leg up. Now, this is kind of the issue I want to show you. So I'm going to go ahead and play. Let me just close the sequencer. So if I was to actually just press or trigger a montage of that specific animation, you'll notice that the top half seems to move, but the legs kind of just stay planted to the floor. So this is kind of a bit of a problem. So in the third person character, just so you understand the setup, we just have just a debug key 0 just for the example, and we call the play anim montage. And in there we then have a montage playing. So if I was to open up the montage, you'll see that in the montage the leg lifts up, so there's no issues there. And again, in the actual animation the montage is using, that's looking perfectly fine as well. So what's happening? And the answer itself is actually down to, if we go into the anim blueprint for Mani and then go to the anim graph, the issue is actually down to this here, the control rig. So this control rig itself is used for the feet. So if I was actually just to come over and just unhook that and then quickly test it again and then press 0, you'll notice the animation looks fine. So it's working wonderful. But now we do have this slight issue where the feet are actually hovering off the floor because the IK is there to help the feet look how they're supposed to, essentially. So ideally we want to be able to fix this issue without just disabling the control rig, because as you can see the control rig looks all nice and dandy, but then we've got a slight bit of movement then, but obviously not sufficient. So the reason why, it's actually down to how the control rig works. So quickly just jump into there and just open that up. The way that it functions is it actually does a foot trace. So you can think it was just a line trace. The function, feel free to jump in yourself and have a poke around. But what it's looking for is it's tracing from the IK foot underscore L and the IK foot underscore R. So these are actually bones on the skeleton specifically to help facilitate the foot IK. So if I was to come in and look at the skeleton, you'll be able to see these here. So that's these two bones. And by default, they're just at the idle position where the feet are. Now, if we come in and we were to say look at the run forward, and we look at the bones again, we can see that those IK bones move with the animation, which again makes perfect sense. That's where we kind of want to trace from. Now, if we go back to the animation that that I've created as an example, the one for the right foot doesn't move. So when it's doing the IK trace, it's doing it from this spot here, which means that when it's trying to calculate where the foot should be, it's always going to assume that it needs to be where it hits the floor from this point, which is obviously a problem. That's not what we want at all. So what we can actually do, well, there's actually a few solutions to this. So one of them is using these animation data modifiers. Now, what we can do, there is a specific modifier in here called copy bones modifier. So we'll go ahead and actually add that. It gives us a list of bone pairs that we can add. And what we want to do is the source bone and the target bone. So the source bone is kind of like the bone that we actually want to copy. So what we can do is if we actually choose this to the foot, so we want to do the right foot, and we want to copy where its location is to the IK. Let's do the foot again. Foot for the IK version. So if I was to come in and select this so we can see it, and then I was to actually apply that modifier, you will now notice that the IK bone is moving with the foot as you'd probably expect it to. Now if I was to come in and test the animation again, it's all working now, all hunky-dory. So in terms of these modifiers that you can add to the animations, this is quite useful if you've already have a couple of animations that you've made and you've not realised. This can be quite useful. Of course, you can add multiple bone pairs, so you can add one for each foot. If you're doing the hands, you could possibly do the same for the hand IK bones as well. But having to apply this to every single animation you make using the control rig isn't really ideal. It's going to cause an absolute nightmare, particularly if you're making 50 animations, which can be easily done sometimes, and then you're having to go through each one of them and then set up where the IK bone should be. Isn't going to be ideal. So there is a kind of a faster way we can do that, and that's by modifying the control rig itself that we use. So it's not the IK rig one that's used for the foot. What we actually want to do is modify the one that we use to create the animations with. So for this one, I used the mannequin body one, and that's the one that's got all the various handles and things that you can use to essentially pose and manipulate Manny with. Now, so if you actually go ahead and just open that up, you'll notice that everything is, pretty crazy in here. I only understand a fraction of it, but there are a few things that we can actually modify in here that will make it easier and kind of automatically assign those IK bones where they need to be. Okay, so in terms of the IK bones themselves, if we were actually to go to the hierarchy and essentially try and look for them, they're not there. There are some IKs here, but these are like nulls and controls that are used, well, for the control rig. Which means that if we actually try and update the IK bones, we're just not going to be able to find it. So what we need to do is actually refresh. So if we can right click in the hierarchy, press refresh, and it'll ask you to select the mesh. And if we should choose the Mani Simple one, it should, in a second, once it's gone through, it should attempt to update all of the bones that are in that particular skeleton. So now if we do IK again, it's now showing the ones for the foot and the hand. And these weren't there previously. So all the other controls should have stayed the same because they're separate, but the actual bones on the skeleton should have updated. So with us doing that, we can actually now just pull in the IK foot R bone and we can set that bone. Just like that. And then in terms of the actual value for it, we want to set that to where the foot R is. So we can get that transform and we can just connect that in. Just like so. So if we're actually to go ahead and do a quick test, so what I'm going to do is just open up the control rig sequence that we've currently set up, so that's this one. And I'm just going to go ahead and, obviously I'm not changing anything at this point, all I'm going to do is just rebake the animation. So, example, IK issue, I'm just doing 02. Just like that. And we'll open that up. The animation itself looks the same, but now if we actually look at the foot R, you'll notice that that's already animating with the foot where we would expect it to be. And that's without the need to then apply a modifier to it. So we can kind of use that slight modification to some of the other IK bones and have it where it will automatically set the locations for these IK bones when we bake the animation out. And if it is something where you are creating animations in Unreal, then it can be a massive time saver and hopefully prevent you from banging your head wondering why something's not working. So as a quick example, if we do it again, but this time for the left foot, it'd be exactly the same. So we do set bone for the IK, we can just make it higher at the end, and then we can get the transform again, but this time we just want to do the foot underscore L, and we connect that in like so, and that'll do the same one for the left. out as well. Now, what I like to do is actually just collapse this to a function, and we can just give that a quick rename. Call update IK bones. So that way we can add some more in here, just helps keep it a little bit tidier. So as I mentioned, you may want to do it with the hand bones as well, the hand IK. So it's up to you whether or not you want to do that. Now, one last thing I would do is just with this update IK bones, I would also actually go ahead and do it on the construction event as well. So just add a new one on the sequence. The reason why is because sometimes if you don't do that, you can sometimes have issues where on the first frame it's still at 0, 0, and then it just instantly snaps to somewhere else. If both feet are on the floor, you might not notice it, but as I mentioned, if it's away to start with, then you can sometimes have issues. But as I mentioned, just having it update on the construction event as well, that can kind of just help prevent that. So yeah, so that's a little rundown on how you can make a few modifications to the IK rig or the control rig and have it update the relevant IK bones so that your animations don't break with the IK rig that's used within the animation blueprint. So that's how you can fix that and still keep the foot IK. So that's it for the video. Hopefully you found this this video helpful. If you did, it'd be greatly appreciated if you left a like on the video. I do have a Discord as well, so if you do have any issues or you want to chat about something, by all means drop over there. We have quite a few members that are quite active at the moment. It's always great to see things that you're working on, so do go ahead and head over there. So again, I just want to say thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.